FloTrack podcast on a Monday morning. I'm Kevin Sully, joined by Gordon Mack. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in live on YouTube. If you haven't, you can subscribe to the channel. You can also listen to this in an audio format wherever you get your podcasts. Gordon, your favorite event of 2021 lived up to the billing this past weekend. Great couple of days for you.
Yeah, and the event is only going to get better. I think it's safe to say the actual best runner in this event has yet to even run it, and it's already an amazing event. So that person's probably going to run live on Flow this weekend on Saturday or Friday. I'm not sure what day, but yeah, the 5K on the men's side is so deep, especially now if you throw in someone like Cole Hocker into the mix. Nico Young now showing a fast time. It is utterly insane. Utterly insane.
Let's go in chronological order here. Let's start first with the Friday night Drake Relays men's 5,000. And we're going to get in the show to the biggest winners from the USATF Grand Prix meet and the biggest question marks as well coming up in a little bit. But I want to touch on this men's NCAA 5,000 right now because we are in the midst of a historic season. So it started off on Friday night with Nico Young running the American junior record at Drake, 13:24, that big PB that people expected once he got the opportunity to run fast. So first of all, what did you think of Nico's run on Friday?
It's impressive. He's showing that he could be our next, great young talent to come in, like, since we've had like a Grant Fisher. I feel like he's kind of flirting with that Grant Fisher, maybe even better than what Grant was. Because if you look back what Grant Fisher was freshman year, I mean, coming out of high school as a sub-4 miler, he multi-time cross-country champion. He only got like top 20, I think, at cross. And then, he didn't win individually till sophomore year, but he was kind of a really slow progression. Whereas Nico Young, top 5 at cross, now breaks the American junior record in the 5. He is a little bit faster. I remember Grant making the Olympic trials as a junior. I mean, like a junior age-wise. And it was like a big deal. Now Nico Young's kind of doing the same thing, qualifies for the Olympic trials. I think we're going to be able to see, like, where did Grant finish in 2016 at the trials and where does Nico finish? We kind of can see who's leading that horse race for young talent early on.
Yeah, and you can see just where there's a tweet we're going to put up here, just where he stacks up with regards to NAU, because it wasn't just him in this race who ran fast for the Lumberjacks. It was Abdi Hamid Nur. It was Blaze Farrow as well. But on Nico, I thought 13:30 was possible. I was paying attention to track and field when German Fernandez was running the American junior record. So those guys had obviously vastly different careers, different high school times at different eras. But one thing that Nico didn't have that was very clear that German Fernandez did have, Nico Young did not have his senior track season. So we had really no idea what Nico Young was capable of this spring. Now, he ran in some races in the winter, but everything got turned upside down once the pandemic hit. So he never really got an opportunity. German Fernandez, of course, had that nuts California state meet where he runs 4 flat in a mile by himself, comes back, runs the insane 3,200. I should say 1,600 and 3,200 for the purists out there who are following California high school track. But Nico, yeah, he had plenty of amazing moments in his high school career, but his high school career was 3.5 seasons, essentially. He did not get the full 4. This, I think we're seeing his full capability. What impressed me on this, Gordon? I mean, Morgan McDonald won this race. Obviously, Morgan McDonald, an NCAA champion in his own right, has run in the 13 teens himself. Nico's kick, I mean, the speed with which Nico closed was mighty impressive. This was not just he's running the same splits all the way through. He's grinding out. We can put up the splits here and just see how quickly he closed over that last quarter. I mean, obviously, McDonald is more experienced, bit stronger, a lot more miles and championship races in his head, but in his legs. But it impressed me. Nico was able to close quickly.
Yeah, and the weird thing about Nico, when he does it, he doesn't look like he's strong at the end. He always has that facial features, body language that he's falling apart. But then it's kind of like
He's
Conor
always
Mann's
struggling,
has
yeah.
that, always looking struggling. It's kind of look like, is he okay? Is he gonna be able to make it all 12 and a half laps? And then you look up at the clock, and he's like, he just ran 13:24. No big deal. Yeah, phenomenal race for him. The athlete. I mean, we can get into this later, but the depth in the 5K is just getting crazy because you look at Nico 13:24. There was another athlete who beat him, the Kyrian Lum. He's going to Washington next year. He's a Canadian, so big shout out to him. So he's joining the NCAA as another sub 1330 guy. Then NAU had their second and third guys go 13:26 and 13:31 or something like that, or 25. I'm not sure exact time, but like Blaze Farrow running 13:30s. Abdi Hamid Nur, he's a freshman running 13:20s. And then you throw in Luis Grijalva. Their top four, their fourth best 5K runner is a 13:31 guy. That's insane. Because Luis Grijalva ran 13:17 back in December. So it's insane.
And then we move forward to Saturday, if I'm remembering this. Oh no, wait, was this the same night? Just later on that same night?
Yeah.
It wasn't
later
it?
on that evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
West Coast time. It was kind of late for me. Might as well have been Saturday. We get the Oregon-Iowa State dual meet here, basically, with Cole Hocker, Cooper Tier, Edwin Kurgat, and of course, Wesley Kiptoo. We talked about 13-18 being that over-under line, which was kind of interesting of like, hey, are they going to crack into that all-time list? Cole Hocker ends up going 13-19, beats Cooper Tier. You could see the exact times there as well, too. I want to get into what Hocker's options look like over the next couple weeks, but first, just generally, this did not surprise you at all, right? A 13-19, a 13-20, a 13-20, a 13-21. This goes exactly to what you've been talking about all year. When you get all these guys together, you're going to see some historically deep races.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I think it definitely shows that Kiptoo has a weakness, and it's his kick, getting fourth in this race. Excuse me. It shows the versatility of Hocker, where people didn't look at him as a 5K guy because, he ran 13:30 against Centro. He wasn't in the Cooper Tier, Edwin Kurgat range. But now that he beats those guys, you kind of got to look at Hocker as like, hey, whatever event he chooses, he'll be the favorite in. Maybe he chooses the 5 over the 15. I'm not sure if the 15 5K double is possible. You'd have to look at the schedule. Is it?
Are you talking about it? You're talking about NCAAs or?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all tough, right? Because it's one day. There is no, I mean, what's possible really is in the eye of the beholder. The 5 and the 10 is possible, completely separate days. Everything else is just is a mess. But we are running out of weeks though. And you can see, we'll put up the current 5,000 list. This is insane. I think this looks like a Gordon Mack special. When you see it in that Excel format, folks, that's a Gordon Mack special there. You just see how deep it is. Now, you mentioned Grijalva. He hasn't run yet. And I think there is one last or maybe two last big 5Ks to go here. So we haven't seen the end of just the fast times before we get to the championship part of the season. But for someone, if we want to talk about Hocker and whether or not he decides to focus on the 5K for the trials, a lot of that I think is predicated on whether or not he has the Olympic standard. Agree?
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the Olympic standard in the 15 either, right?
Right. But what is he going to want to run between now and then to get the Olympic standard? Because I don't know if they have him on a pitch count out there in Eugene, but he's been running a lot of hard efforts for several months in a row now. Perhaps they don't want to go to the well again in another 5K, and maybe the focus will now shift back to the 15. It's a good problem to have, and I'm curious what you think they'll do, because there's obviously West Coast Relays coming up. There's another fast meet at Oregon, Twilight meet. There's another California meet that's going to be quick down in the Los Angeles area, I believe. So there's a couple opportunities to run quick, but then you're going right into conference and then the championship part of the season, and then the decision needs to be made at that point.
For someone like Hocker, though, he only has two meets left to really. Well, he has this upcoming weekend. I think they're running like at Oregon State High Performance meet or the Desert Heat meet in Arizona. Then they have the Oregon Twilight. But then it's Pac-12s, prelims, NCAAs, and there's no time to chase. I think between NCAAs and trials, right? Because they're right up against each other.
Back to back.
So really,
Back to back.
he is going to have to be in a fast 1500 this weekend or next weekend if he wants to get it, or he could try to pull hey, let's time trial the 1500 at Pac-12s. I'm sure they're talented enough to use one of the Oregon guys. Is like, hey, I mean, Lowry Lang ran a 3:36 at Pac-12s against Cheserek, I remember a few years ago. So it's possible to do it at a championship meet. Not common, but it's possible. But then it's also like the idea is like, do you need a chase? I mean, it's easier to chase a 15 because you can just be like, all right, let's go for one. And then maybe that Oregon Twilight. But if they don't, like, here's the thing. These guys, like the Hockers and the Nico Youngs, the people who super young in their career, sometimes it's okay to just make your first trials and not try to run yourself down beforehand just to hit an Olympic standard. Because, like, hey, I think it's okay to go, if you're a 19, 18, 20-year-old, I think it's okay to go into the distance events. I think it's okay to go into your first Olympic trials without the standard. Because it's like, hey, just get there, learn how to run rounds, see what it's like. And if you did get third,
okay, but hold on. You're putting Nico and Hocker together with the purpose of discussing Olympic trials. I don't think they're the same thing. I think Hocker obviously has a much better chance to make the Olympic team. So I think the urgency is more real for Hocker than it would be for Young. And the fact that he can do a shorter event just adds credence to, okay, let's take some shots, right? He's run 350 indoors.
Okay.
He can run 335 outdoors, whether or not it's going to be at the Oregon Twilight, whether or not it's going to be, like you said, at OSU or some other, that is well within his range. For Young, you're asking him to what? Drop another 11 seconds off of his PB that he just set? That's a big ask going to the championship season. I agree with you on the Young sentiment. I think Hocker, though, has the opportunity to make the Olympic team, and I don't think you can pass that up. I want to ask you this, though.
I'm trying to figure out if Hocker would be able to get in on his world ranking. Because sometimes you don't necessarily, I mean, he probably doesn't have a world ranking yet because he hasn't run enough 1500s, but he will once he goes through the whole, like, let me look up. So right now, someone like Sam Prakel, who doesn't have the standard, he could get in on his ranking. And this is what his ranking is. His ranking has a 336, 337, 337, 339, and 337. Hocker, he has a 350 mile. He has a 338. So he just needs to run a couple more like 338s, 337s. And I think he'll have a world ranking that is high enough to qualify. Not to, because you also have the race that you run at USA's. That counts towards it too. So like a third place finish at USA's is going to boost your world ranking as well. So it's a weird thing where there's going to be this scenarios where there are going to be people without the Olympic standard who then getting third at the trials actually boosts their ranking up enough where all of a sudden they have a virtual standard. And maybe Hocker is going to count on that. I don't know.
Great point. You see some world ranking stuff there. Can we put up the graphic of the all-time men's 5,000 list? I want to ask you how many guys by the end of the year you think will top this. So right now we have, Cole Hocker ran that 13:19. So that's number 12 all time. How many more marks do you think we'll see that are faster than that this season?
One.
Just one. Okay.
Luis Grijalva, right? I don't know. But I can also see Luis this weekend when he runs. He's like runs a 13:30 and not a 13:10, right? Because he's going to be like, all right, just get into the meet. I do think there are multiple people who are. I think all four of the guys who are in that race, Hocker, Tier, Kurgat, and Kiptu, they could probably all run faster if they wanted to. But the question is, will there ever be in a race that asks for that, right? And I don't think the 5K final NCAAs is going to ask for a 13 teens race. Unless, I mean, Kiptu will go out,
It
but I
may.
just don't think he'll. I don't know.
Well, you're right. It may not ask for that, but Kiptu may provide it because he
Mhm.
doesn't ask permission when he runs these races. He just goes for it. We saw what he did indoors. If Hawker's in that race and if Tier's in that race, and we expect Tier to be in at NCAA's, Hawker maybe just a 15, but Kiptu knows his best chance to win is going hard
Make it hard.
from
Yeah,
the gun.
that's
I mean,
true.
he tried to run the kick out of Connor Mance in a cross country race. You don't think he's going to try to run the kick out of Cooper Tier on the track? A lot of it depends probably what happens on the 10,000 on the first day of men's competition to see how much they got left in their legs. But part of me thinks in the back of my head we might have a insanely fast championship race instead of a tactical one.
Yeah, especially because the talent's going to be there. If you go back, I want to talk about this just one last moment, the 5K. If we go back to that graphic of the top 12 times this year, it was the classic Gore. There it is.
There
Bring that
you
one
go.
up. So obviously those bottom 2 marks are indoor marks because they haven't run. But the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 marks on that list all are in the West region. They're all in the West. And then when you throw in Luis Grijalva, who will be a top tier, the top 12 marks in the 5K will all be in the same region, which is the West, which is insane. Does seeing something like that where the best 12 runners are all from one side of the country, does that make you want to rethink the way you do East-West prelims? Because you could have an event where you are 13th in the nation, but you're not even good enough to make it to nationals.
Yeah. Well, it's especially tight this year, right? Because, 48 to 32 doesn't impact ultimately the 12 from each region that goes, but it just creates a bigger crunch. I just don't know what would the solution be. Just take the fastest group and then split them randomly into 2 regions. I mean, that would seem to be kind of difficult too with different, like you're going to split schools up depending on
You can't do
where they go. Yeah. Those are the breaks, man. And it's been this way for a while now. I'm sure there's events where the East is stronger than the West, and it balances out. But yeah, you're saying so basically you could run 13:30 this year and not make it. Like that's a real possibility from the West.
Yeah, it's insane. And also think about the way you qualify in the 5K, because the 5K isn't a 1 heat qualifier. It's 2 heats and it's top 5 automatic. What if the way the draw ends up that Tier, Kurgat, Kiptu, like all the best guys are in 1 heat, right?
Yeah.
And it's even harder to like be top 5 to get an auto berth. And maybe there's a situation where an amazing athlete like a Kiptu doesn't make it. Like imagine if it's tactical and Kiptu is in the same heat with Hocker, Tier, Grijalva, Luis, a bunch of a Connor Mance, right?
Yeah,
a bunch of gamers, and then he just gets 6 because it's tactical, and then all of a sudden he's not in the meet. So I think there's going to be 1 or 2 really good 5K runners out of the West who are watching. I think there'll be 1 or 2 I think there's going to be someone from the West who probably could have been top 3 at nationals who won't make it, because maybe top 5 at nationals who won't make it. So anyway,
here's the championship results. We'll put them up right now from the 5,000, 10,000 recent history. Who's it going to be? You have a new pick? Who's going to be the 2021 champion, Gordon?
Luis Grijalva.
Sticking with it, huh?
Yeah.
I gotta say,
no reason not to.
My Kiptu pick, most people would jump ship at this point. I'm not. I'm sticking around. I'm staying there. I like the consistency. Is the closing speed there? No, it's not where I want it to be, but we still got another month and a half.
My hot take is we're all on the Cole Hocker train, right? In the 15 and the 5. But I honestly think there's a 1,500 meter runner out there who can beat Hocker and a 5K runner out there who can beat Hocker. And one of them runs in South Bend, Indiana. The other one runs in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I think this shows a depth that so great as Hocker there's also another guy out there on both events who could challenge for the win in Yair Nuguse in the 15 and Luis
Oh,
Grijalva
yeah.
in the 5. So
Yeah, I don't think it's a shoe-in by any means, but you just look at the way he's winning these races. He just racks up win after win, and he has that kick that is just so hard to figure out if you're an opponent. And obviously, when you run 13:19 and you have 350-mile speed, and you can close, as we've seen how he closes indoors in particular in that 3K, heck, even in that mile, it's just like he's got all the tools. Figuring out how to beat him is going to be really hard. Not impossible. You're right. I mean, we forget even about Sam Tanner, right? You forget about Sam Tanner,
Yeah.
who could win the 15 as well too. He was
He's
a
going to the Olympics.
stud indoors. Yeah, he's going to the Olympics. Exactly.
But the thing about Grijalva is like I think everyone kind of just looks at Grijalva at his cross country performances, and they forget that like he literally beat Cooper Tier by 2 seconds in a 5K in a fast time. You know, he outkicked the guy who almost beat Cole Hocker. You know, so I think Grijalva, people are sleeping on him because they just think of his cross country performances.
Well, and the track performances, he doesn't have a signature track championship performance. He's done a lot of things in time trial settings, but yeah, like you look at his T-First page there. I mean, go Command F and hit NCAA championships, and he's been solid a lot, but he doesn't have that one performance. So I totally understand why people would put other people ahead of him. What's that?
Can we scroll on that Luis Grijalva graphic?
Yeah. Let's scroll down on the. Let's go into this is into the mind of Gordon here. This is what Gordon spends hours and hours of his time doing. Keep going down here. Keep going down. Let's go to his. I mean, we don't have. Again, there has that BU race, right? 7:43. The 5,000 was impressive, but if we keep going down, you go to what's his highest track performance? I think it's indoors. Right? I don't think he's finished top 10 in the nation.
He's dead last in that 5K in 2019 outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a long time ago now. But it's a long time ago now. So is it that relevant? No. Yeah, here's the indoor one. Scroll over. I can't see what the place is there, but there we go. Yeah, 14. So again, doesn't mean he can't do it. It's been a long time. 2 years ago, Cole Hocker would not have been in the conversation for NCAA champion. So a lot of things can change, but it's tough to say like for sure he's going to be ahead of Mance, for sure he's going to be ahead of Kurgat, guys who have won NCAA titles. You've explained how deep this is. All right, let's talk. We got some people joining the chat here. So on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, biggest winners and biggest question marks that you have. That's what we're going to discuss right now from the USATF Grand Prix meet. If you watched it over the weekend in Eugene, or just any question or winner that you have in the track world over the weekend. I want to start first here with the winners, Gordon, and then we want to go to the question marks. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Let's start with the winners. And Shaunae Miller-Uibo, first person I want to talk about. Now, the women's 400 came at the beginning part of the meet, so we didn't really know what the times were going to look like, especially on the sprint side, how fast of a meet it was going to be. But it became clear towards the end that this was not a great day for sprinting. Men's 400, the 200, both hundreds, there wasn't an eye-popping time. But Miller-Uibo's time was the best of the bunch, 49.08. That's her fourth fastest time ever. And when we talked about this on Friday, Gordon, I brought up, I want to see the gap between her and everybody else. And as you could see, if you watch the race, you just look at the results, there was a big gulf between her and everybody else. Also, her necklace in her mouth for a good portion of the race. You can shave off a couple of hundredths there as well. I mean, you're looking at sub 49 here in the near future for Miller-Uibo, I think.
I love the matching kit to wig. It's very good look. The pink hair to the pink kit. Very fresh. That was my one takeaway. I'm just saying, she looked good. She looked good on the track, and backed it up with some great performance.
All right, that's all.
Well, I mean, she's the best in the world. I mean, she should have won that race. She ran fast. I think she is one of the. I think it's a weird year where there are only going to be a select few who are in like they're in their peak form because of a long COVID of 2020, it's going to be hard to have, the top 5 in every event all be in their best form. And she's one of them where she's in her best form. Like you see, we'll talk about like Michael Norman, he runs a 44 high. That's not his best form, but so whenever you get a sprinter like a Shaunae Miller-Uibo, like a Sha'Carri Richardson, like it's another sprinter who's doing well right now, a Terrence Laird, Fred Curley. It's like you kind of appreciate it because you know that because of that long layoff, it's going to be hard to get all the top sprinters all back into their peak form. And it's good that now Shaunae Miller-Uibo joins the list of I'm back, track is back, I'm ready to dominate in the summer. So,
yeah, I mean, Irby 50-28, pretty good sign for her. Beard 50-38. That women's 400 is impossible to, on the American side, is going to be impossible to sort out, I think, for another couple months here. Like we may go into the trials with 6 names, 7 names of people who can make that team. It's going to be incredibly difficult there. Irby trains with Miller-Uibo as well too, so you got that added bonus there. Like she's keying off of. Got a photo after the race with those two and the coach Lance Bromell. Good advantage for Irby knowing that she's training with one of the best women in the world. Miller-Uibo's all-time performances are kind of interesting if you look at them, like where they've come from, because now she's got 2 in April, because in 2019 she ran a really fast time in April as well too in Florida. She ran a 49.05 in Florida. Then you have this one, so you have 2 49.0s from April. Then you have the Doha race, which was in October of 2019, the World Championship, when she ran 49.37, and then just you have a Monaco from 2019 in July. So you have October, July, April. It's just interesting because of how meticulous coaches are about planning out a season, that like that's how it's worked out. And she's obviously run enough 400s where you should get like a pretty good sample size. But for whatever reason, she got 2 awesome ones in April, and then peaked well for the World Championships, and then has a big run in late July as well too. All right, next winner. Oliver Hoare. I think, was a big winner. And Aussie mid-distance running in general. If anybody watched, a lot of people maybe didn't see the Aussie Championships a couple weeks ago. Might have gone under the radar. Stuart McSwain and Jai Edwards ran this epic race. I just love the way Oliver Hoare runs. We've talked about this in regard to Josh Kerr. Completely fearless. They go out there. They do not do the sit and kick thing. They run with no regard for their own well-being. They hop aboard the rabbit, and then when the rabbit steps off, there's no third lap slowdown. There's no dawdle. There's no looking around and trying to figure out the kick. And Hoare here is rewarded with an outdoor PB, got an indoor PB running a similar style during the indoor season. I just like the way he's attacking this event, Gordon. And if you look at, hey, how's the men's 1500 going to be run at the Olympics this year? Let's look at how the top 2 guys run it. Does Timothy Chariot really lay back and chill? No. He goes at it from the gun, no holds barred. Jakob Ingebrigtsen races the same way. So Oliver Hoare right now is perfectly suited. And you could say the Aussies in general, because if McSwain runs a 15, we saw him do it at the Aussie Champs, and Jai Edwards, they ran those 333s running the same way. They're perfectly suited for how that event is being run right now, which bodes well. I don't think it's going to be a traditional sit and kick style of race. I think people are going to key off Chariot, and I think Chariot's going to do the same thing he did in Doha. So great run here for Oliver Hoare.
Yeah, and he looked down the list. Knight, he kind of was in no man's land, kind of finished there in second. Donovan Brazier won the pack race because there was that big separation. So it makes sense that Brazier would be in. Basically, he got first in his separate race because Oliver Hoare and Knight were in their own worlds. But the fastest last 400 was by the high school kid, Hobbs Kessler, 56.0. Does not break the high school 1,500 meter record. I think it was about 2 seconds off, but still 340, legitimate as a high school senior. And if he beat some legitimate people who are paid professionals. Johnny Gregor, Jordy Beamish, Bryce Hoppel. I mean, he's an 800, so he doesn't count. But
yeah,
it's very impressive that he can mix it up in this race and feel confident. You got to think he is going to be eyeing to try to get to that 37.5, which is the trials standard to be able to run at the Olympic trials. So he's going to be definitely chasing some fast 37.5 paced race to try to make the trials as a high school senior.
And credit to Justin Knight, who has the same agent as Oliver Hoare, took a good picture after the race. He went with him, and he said on this podcast, Knight said, I want the Olympic standard in the 1500. Doesn't mean he's going to run the Olympic 1500, but said he wanted it and went for it. Came up a little bit short, 3:35.85, so less than a second off of it. But he didn't stay back with that group. It's funny, too, because he mentioned he'd only lead a race if Brazier was in it. And the fact that Brazier was in it maybe got him going a little bit because he was in that first group. And as you said, Brazier he won that chase group. And for a while, Hoppel was wandering there in no man's land. It was kind of interesting. The way Hoare runs, and this is why it's impressive, especially in a paced race setting. So I know that objective isn't to win rabbited races all the time, right? The objective, hey, it's trials, it's the Olympics, it's the World Championships. But it seems to be a good method to win a 1500 is to make your opponent make a decision early in the race to commit or to not commit. Because basically what Oliver Hoare did by going with Craig Nowak, who did a really good job rabbiting, by the way, he made everybody question their own fitness. Hey, do I have enough to run 3:33 today? Oh, I'm not sure. And it just strung out the whole race. And then so you had someone like Hoppel and Brazier, who obviously if it went slower, you think could factor in because of how fast that they can close. But he rendered their kicks irrelevant and mixed up the whole chase pack behind him because then people were kind of stuck. Oh, am I too far? Am I too close to Knight and Hoare, or am I too close to the pack behind me? He just forces people to make decisions. Kerr does the exact same thing. Obviously, Chariot and Ingebrigtsen have done it at a higher level, but it's just a good method for trying to win a rabbited race. If that's your goal, is to just stick to that pace, stick to that rabbit, and make everybody react.
Yeah. And the conditions were kind of overcast. It wasn't like perfect 1500 meter weather conditions, but man, I'll say it again. We need more Americans to run like these international guys because we talk about winners. The winners, again, are the three people with the standard in Josh Thompson, Craig Engels, and Matt Senchowitz. This has been a perfect opportunity to try to get the standard. And only Oliver Hoare went with the rabbit. Justin Knight kind of went with it too. But
yeah, he did.
Hey, man, we're running out. We're less than 10 weeks away from the trials. We need more 1,500 meter men with the standard, or else we're going to get on that starting line, and it's just going to be weird because every day, Centro sits back and is like, "Hey, thanks, guys. I don't have to work as hard now. You know, I can continue to finish 8th in races, and you guys can continue to run 3:37s and not 3:35."
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. Keep an eye on how many people get the standard. Every week that it doesn't happen just increases the odds of the three that already have it. Although it's worth mentioning, you brought up the world ranking situation before. Maybe some people will get into that, but nobody wants to do that much math. Everybody wants to have a 334.99 and just not worry about it. Does anybody want to try to calculate this stuff?
As of right now, the world ranking, John Gregoric, Ben Blankenship, and Sam Prakel can get in on their world ranking.
Okay, yeah, we can put that up again with those world rankings, but yeah, it's just a lot of mystery though, right? Because then there's going to be because they add this most recent performance and they take off that old performance, and this meet has more weight than the other meet, and it's definitely hard to figure out. And just the odds of it, right?
It's weird. What were we gonna say?
I was gonna say there's gonna be somebody though who's running well, who for whatever reason doesn't have a good world ranking, and they're not gonna have that card of I just have to stay and worry about it. I just think it's a net gain for those three. Anytime there's a race being run where it's slower than 3:35, from the American perspective, it's a net gain for Centro, Thompson, Engels. It's just one less person that they're going to need to potentially worry about.
What else do you want to talk about?
Here we go. Trayvon Bromell, another winner. Someone wants to know about your cold take on Noah Williams. We're getting to that. We're saving that for the end. That's the best part of the show. We don't want to give that away in the beginning. Trayvon Bromell, though, we could put up these 100-meter results here. If you haven't watched the race, go back and watch the race, because Trayvon Bromell's start was the equivalent to a boxer going out to the middle of the ring and just delivering a haymaker in the first second. I mean, he ended this thing, Gordon, in the first 10 meters with how quickly he reacted to the gun and how well he got out. I bet he wants to bottle that, keep it, copy it, save it, make an NFT of it so he has it come Olympic trials, come the Olympic Games. The rest of the race, 10:01, it's not going to be his fastest time, but if you can find a better Trayvon Bromell start, please find it for me. I'd love to see it. I know the conditions weren't that great, but nobody was a factor in this race at all other than Bromell, just because of how quickly he reacted to that gun. I was incredibly impressed. The ending margin of victory, 0.16 over Noah Lyles. And we're used to Lyles really moving well the last 50 meters, and he probably did here, but the deficit was just so big because of how well Bromell got out. Just very impressed, especially considering it's his first 100 of the year.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. He ran 10:01 into a headwind.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to see negative 0.2. What's the altitude of Eugene?
Of Eugene, Oregon? Not very high.
So it basically converts to a 10 flat when you include the headwind, because it wasn't that too much. But hey, I was making a side joke with you about Trayvon Bromell. He actually didn't have the World Olympic standard because he ran all of his fast times during the dead period in 2020, so they didn't count. I was hoping that we would have Trayvon Bromell run all these fast times into 2.1 wind, so therefore he doesn't have a legal mark. It would have been a great storyline because no one would know. We're like, wait a minute, Trayvon Bromell needs legal wind, or else he doesn't get to go to the Olympics. It'd be a great story. Right. You need the gods to come down and say, let the wind be peaceful. Anyway, so, but yeah, Trayvon, I mean, he smokes Noah Lyles. Who else? I mean, the next other guys are Baker and Gatlin. I mean, Gatlin's not running anything out of his mind. He's running 9.98s, 9.97, so 10 flats in that range. Baker has a little bit of a faster PB. I mean, season best. But Trayvon Bromell just seems like he's in another world right now of focus, and I think he's the heavy favorite going into the Olympic trials and then ultimately the Olympics, because the winner of the Olympic trials is probably going to win the Olympics.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be the favorite at the very least. Yeah, you talked to him last week. If people haven't checked out the podcast, we got a couple clips up there as well about winners and what's the difference between a winner and a loser in the 100. Well, now you know. Bromell, it's starting like Trayvon Bromell. We could throw up that graphic there. You can see some of the clips that you cut out with Bromell. Good interview if people haven't checked it out already. I want to put in one of the question marks right now. Gordon, I know we've been separating these into winners and question marks, but on this same topic, I'll throw in the question mark now of Lyles' double. Not that he was ever a favorite to win the 100 and the 200, right? That's a hard thing to do. But because of how well Bromell is running and because of how well Gatlin and Baker have looked in some early season performances, Lyles said after the race in a tweet, it was cold, rainy, good race, happy with his 10:17. But it's going to be hard to do that double. I think still he is the overwhelming favorite in the 200. I've said it time and time again. I would bet my house on it, and I just bought a house, and now I have 3 kids. I did not clear it with any of the people in my house, but I feel supremely confident in him in the 200. But the 100 is going to be tough. The 100 is going to be tough. And, 2 years ago, we did not see the comeback coming from Bromell. We obviously didn't see Coleman being suspended. So maybe you sub one out and then replace it with the other one there. But we haven't seen that yet, and maybe we will see it in the coming months. But we haven't seen a big Lyles 100 to put him as the top ranked guy in the U.S. in the 100.
Yeah, and when Lyles was at his best in the 100, he wasn't dominating anyone. He was winning races very closely.
Right.
So I think it's okay. I mean, I was talking to Trayvon about this, and like a lot of times, like the world and like the media and the fans, they kind of want Noah Lyles to be the next Usain Bolt, and they're kind of like putting this on him, and like, you have the charisma, you're really fast, you're fun, and you're winning these great races, and you need to be our next Bolt. And maybe Noah Lyles isn't designed to be the next 100, 200 double champion multiple times. Maybe he is designed to be an all-time great 200-meter runner. And that's okay. Like, there could be that point of like, there's like, it's going to be weird how he could go on and like break the American record in the 200, win Olympic gold in the 200. But like, people be like, yeah, well, you didn't really make the 100-meter team. So it's kind of like not that good. It's like, are you kidding me? The guy just broke Michael Johnson's record, and he's dominating in an event. Like, no one criticizes, Matt Sensuitz for not being really good at the 800. It's like, whatever, So it was an interesting thing that maybe he's in this unique stage where he has to kind of deal with like, the expectation is for me to dominate the 1 and 2. But maybe I should internally know that the expectation should be the greatest 200-meter runner of all time. And I think he can achieve that.
And I think the 100 probably helps his 200.
Yeah.
It helps round him out as a runner. The competition is just a little steeper. We've talked about it time and time again. The 200 for the last few years, especially when you get to these championship meets, when injuries factor in and when people doubling back from either the 100, most commonly, or sometimes dropping down the 400, you just don't get the primo field that you get sometimes in the 100. So whether it was Coleman a couple of years ago or obviously Bromell now, it's a deeper group that you have to navigate through. And anybody who watches Lyles run the 200, that's his event. Right, he's built for that event. That event is sensational. We got this another tweet here from Lyles. This is interesting. When this was from? This is from 2019. Oh yeah, when they were doing the comparison. Yeah, he's right. It's very hard to run a fast at championship. I apologize for the Bolt Who comment. Oh, this is after, I think it was Zahn. He broke his meet record and then posted Bolt Who, and then Bolt was posting responses because after Doha, I didn't run that fast. I was fine with it. Lyles, no, man. Lyles is on.
I'm just trying to be myself.
Yeah. Bolt, I don't think anybody thought, oh, Noah Lyles is saying he's all-time great. He just broke his meet record. If you broke a Usain Bolt meet record, talk. You deserve to talk. Bolt wants to come out of retirement and beat you. He can come out of retirement and beat you. So everybody's being too nice here. We all know that Bolt's the GOAT. That's fine. But Lyles's event is a 200, right? You just see the way he masters that curve. You see how smooth he is down the home stretch. So for him to be good at that and another event is a bonus. But I 100% agree. We shouldn't compare him to Bolt in that regard and call his career anything less than great if he doesn't turn out to get a gold in the 100 as well too. Two more winners. Jasmine Camacho Quinn keeps rolling. Gordon, 12:46 in the high hurdles. Again, the conditions were not fast, and she ran a really good time, so backs that up after the 12:3. I think she's a medal threat for sure. I think when you start talking about her as a medal threat, the U.S. picture obviously is going to be very muddy until they send 3 runners, but I haven't seen much from Danielle Williams so far this year from Jamaica, so you're really just leaning on whoever the 3 Americans are, and we do not know who those 3 Americans will be. Obviously, Kenny Harrison will be in good form. She's run fast this year, but you have to like what Camacho Quinn's been doing early season.
This may be naive of me, but why is Puerto Rico separate when it comes to international competition and not part of America?
Gordon advocating for Puerto Rico's statehood on
Well, no,
this
not
podcast.
but like they're a U.S. They're a U.S. something, aren't they? Something part of it? I don't know the
Yeah, territory. Yeah.
territory.
Well, like
So why?
U.S. Virgin Islands. So if you want, let's turn this into a hoops conversation, right? U.S. Virgin Islands. Tim Duncan from the Virgin Islands. I think 1 year at the World Basketball Championship, he sat out the U.S. game versus the Virgin Islands. It was it wasn't in the Olympics, but it was like a preparation game out of respect.
Oh, wow.
Out of respect for the Virgin Islands, he did not play that game. Yeah, there's different in terms of international competition, they have their own separate governing body. But you're right, they're a territory.
Could she compete for America though if she wanted to?
That I don't know. That I do not know.
Maybe she
and now
could,
with
you can choose. Yeah.
Well, with the transfer of allegiance stuff right now, it's getting stricter and stricter. So I don't know if you want to mess with that stuff. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Travis. You got a super producer. You got Travis and Alon collabing here. Although I can't see it, the font is too big. But those of you watching can look at the political status of Puerto Rico. Can you read that, Gordon? I can't. It's too small for my eyes.
I can't read it. It's too small for us.
Oh, here we go. We got it. The political status. Go ahead.
The political status of Puerto Rico is that of an unincorporated territory of the United States. As such, the island of Puerto Rico is neither a sovereign nation nor a U.S. state because of that ambiguity. I'm going to skip that word. Ambiguity. Oh my goodness, I can't say that word. Ambiguity. The territory as a polity lacks certain rights, but enjoys certain benefits that other polities have or lack. So it's like this, like it's half. It's kind of not. I don't know. I just think, imagine if the U.S. could be like, "Hey,
we're signing her.
You're now Americans, and let's go dominate the world in international events." Right? Because I really thought about this a lot when the World Baseball Classic was going on a few years ago, and there was a team Puerto Rico, and they're like doing really good. I was like, all those Puerto Rican baseball players, they should be on Team USA, and that we should be dominating. But I don't know. This is interesting.
I'm guessing at a certain point there was a choice where to compete for, and then they made the choice, and then stuck with it. Though ambiguity. Can you do it?
Ambiguity. Is that ambiguity?
We're getting closer.
I'm getting closer.
Ambiguity.
I had to take speech class.
Our listener. I had a stutter growing up as well too, so I appreciate the effort there. Our listenership spiked right around then too. I think someone posted it on social media because they just saw the amount of people tuning in went up. Okay, one more winner. The Michael Norman, Rai Benjamin friendship, because they do everything in tandem. I don't think they're roommates anymore. They were roommates, and then I think they finished school, and then they moved on. But they are still in sync. There's obviously that famous clip of them when they did their warm-up together, like right before they settled into the blocks, and they're literally like slapping their legs at the same time and reaching up to the sky. Yeah, exactly. Gordon is showing you if you're watching on the YouTube feed. But this was a fun race. Indoors, they were lockstep. Norman wins at 44-67, 44-98. Justin Robinson, third in 45-55. Not much you can take from mid-44s. If you're Rai Benjamin and your main event is the 400-meter hurdles, you got to be happy with the fact that you're this close to Norman. But it seems like no matter what, they'd match each other. I almost think if you threw Michael Norman in a 400-meter hurdle race, he'd be close to Rai Benjamin somehow.
Whoa, we need to see that. We need.
I just think they're in sync with each other. It's just interesting. I don't think Michael Norman has jumped over a hurdle in probably a decade, but I think that they just can do everything together. They have a way. They're like magnets. They pull each other to great performances. That's what I'm saying.
What if they just said as like a prank, they just like go when like in the end of like their careers, like, all right, Rai, you get to run the 400. I'm going to run the 400 hurdles, and we're both going to try to make the meet in opposite, or maybe not do it at the trials, but like enter a meet where one runs the 4, one runs the 400 hurdles. It'll be fun.
Anyway. And on this topic, our producer Travis, he got greedy. He's trying to get Benjamin to do a 400-meter hurdle 400 double. Now, the crying emoji is included in this tweet, so I don't know how to interpret this, but it's not a no.
I mean, yeah, it's not a no. Full send, boys, according to Webster's dictionary, means
Not a
absolutely
no.
not a no. It means not a no. So, I mean, what's first? The 400 or the 400 hurdles?
At trials or
At the trials.
let me look it up.
Because we know some women are going to be doing it, right? We know that someone like a Shamir Little is probably
No.
going to do it.
We think. We don't
We
know.
think. We don't know. But like we can assume that someone like an Ashley Spencer or Shamir Little will attempt both because they know Dalilah Muhammad and Sydney McLaughlin are waiting for them in the 400 hurdles, so it's good to have a backup plan.
400 is first. 400 is first. He'd have a lot of days off if he wanted to do it.
He should do it. Go for it.
Look, I can tell you one thing. Here's another thing I'll bet my house on. Rye Benjamin making the 400-meter hurdle team.
That's a risky bet, to be honest, because what if he trips and falls?
No, has he done it yet? There's such a huge gap between him and the second best person. There's such a huge gap between him and the second best person in the United States in the 400-meter hurdle. So I think he could do it. I think he could 100% do it. Now, what do you want to do it at the Olympics? Is it possible at the Olympics? Because then you're going up against Warholm and Samba, totally different ball game. Let's touch on some question marks here from this weekend. We already talked about Lyles' double. Jenny Simpson, 9th in the 1500, runs 4:10 in a race won by Laura Muir. I'm not worried at all. Are you going to say that you're worried about a person who's made every team since 2007?
She's starting to, if you look at her Instagram, let's read it. I came from my first race in over a year to preview the stadium where the next Olympic trials are going to be. I didn't have a great performance today, but the road to Tokyo was always going to be a great challenge, and I'm up for another great challenge. Was it always going to be a great challenge, though? Because is it a great challenge for Shelby? No, because, okay, I'm not trying. Jenny's one of the all-time, first of all, before I even get into this, criticizing Jenny Simpson, she's one of the all-time great distance women we've ever had and will ever come. Right, so let that be a no. But I think it is telling to, like, she is not the Jenny Simpson of 2015s and 13s and 17s. Like, she's getting older, and it's okay. We're not great forever. And I think this performance and her posts about, like, hey, this was always going to be a difficult task. It gives you the vibe that this isn't a, like, oh, whatever. I was 410. Who cares? I was just trying to get my feet wet, rust buster.
Yeah.
I think there is something to it. And I don't think we talk about, women's 1500, hardest team to make. Cause you got Ellie Purrier, you got Shelby Houlihan and Jenny Simpson. That Jenny Simpson maybe not be as strong as an automatic top 3 now. And I think most people probably are going to think that third spot is now open. Before, we thought no spots were open. It was Shelby, Ellie, and Jenny. But this performance, I think, and her reaction to it, I think says that the spot is open. And Jenny's one of the people who could still get it, but it's not as, like, guaranteed sell your house for it.
I'm buying. If people are jumping now, I'm buying. Oh, 100%. You know why the road to Tokyo was always going to be tough? Because it's her 4th Olympic team if she makes it. How many people have made 4 Olympic teams? How many people haven't missed on a championship team since 2007? She hadn't run a race since indoors 2020. So it had been over a year. She jumps right into the fire in a race where Laura Muir, we talked about Oliver Hoare being aggressive. Laura Muir, I mean, there was no rabbit even. She just jumped to the front and put pressure on the entire field. You go back and you look at Jenny Simpson's season openers or season debuts. She's usually pretty solid, right? She wins at Drake, or if she runs indoors, she runs that New Balance meet and puts a good time. I'm not saying this is like, oh, par for the course. She always has a 4:10 that she runs, or she always runs it takes her a while to get going. But these are unusual circumstances, and I still think she was fine. I think if there was an issue, I don't think she would have entered the race. Like, I think if there was a clear issue of, like, the preparation wasn't great, I don't think she'd enter the race. And she mentioned in my interview with her, she knows all the workouts that she's done, and she's still hitting those times. So she knows where she's at. So even though she didn't race a lot. She'll be ready to go when the time comes. I do think we are going to see, not specific to her, but just in general, at the Olympics, people who were really ran in 2020 a lot because that got them going, that kept them motivated, and that put them to a new level. But I think we're also going to see, Gordon, people who maybe regretted racing too much. So it's just a matter of finding that balance.
I'm just leaning on she's going to have the ending that like Leo Manzano had. Leo Manzano, every year we wanted to count him out, and then he would make the team, right? And it became a trope. Be like, don't count out Leo. And then there was that moment when it didn't work. And I think that was in 2016 when he got, was it the 2016 trials when he got fourth?
Yeah.
Or was it 2017? I'm not sure which year it was.
I thought it was 16. He missed by one.
Yeah, he got fourth at Blankenship, right? And it was close, and it was the end of a great Leo era. And I think we could be just, 5 years later doing that same thing with Jenny, the end of a great Jenny era. And there's again.
But the difference is Jenny's been like plugging along now for like 14 years. Does it eventually come to an end? Of course, but it's hard to find a parallel with her. You'd probably have to look at someone like Bernard Lagat or someone who just continually makes teams and is a factor year in and year out.
All
Two
right,
more.
So you willing to put up your house on her being top three?
I don't have that many houses, and I've already bet them on Noah Lyles and Uriah Benjamin. So I'm gonna keep the deed to my house for this one. Two more. Okay. Felix, 7th in the 100, 11:30. I don't think this is a question mark because she's not a 100 runner anymore. She's a 400-meter runner. She's not even going to focus on the 200 this year. So I think the performance was fine. She was close to or beat some 100-meter specialists. So I don't think it's going to be – this performance really tells us one way or the other. The 400 team is going to be hard to make. It was always going to be hard to make. But I think she's looking at that women's 400 and she's seeing, okay, which Americans are capable of running sub 50. None of them did it in this race. The conditions weren't that great, but we've obviously seen Shamir Little, Quinera Hayes run some fast times this year. So I'd take a TBD on Felix. We need to see her in a quarter first, which I'm guessing we'll probably see at Mount Sac.
I think she's definitely not making the top 3 team, but her goal is be top 8. So I'm on the relay and get 2 more medals. That's what I think her goal is. I don't think she's in 49 second shape, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to need to run 49 second shape. Again, I'm not. I think she's going to be in the mix. I think she's going to make the final, and then, as the cliche says, anything can happen at that point. The other one that I want to talk about, the other question mark, and this is a literal question mark. I have no idea what's going to happen to the U.S. men's steeple. Does anybody put up these results here from the race? Everything got turned upside down. You had Isaac Updike and Mason Furlick running fast. So there's more people with the standard, but Bohr, who was one of the people who was looked at as a potential favorite. Let's put those results up there, Alon, if you get a chance. Obsa Ali, I think, just missed it as well. So we don't know. We haven't seen Evan Jager. I just don't know what's happening with this event, Gordon. Do you have any answers?
Oh, I have all the answers. Don't get me wrong. First of all, Andy Bayer watching this race being like, I've made a huge mistake. Maybe he should come out of retirement and try to make a team, because when you see someone like Hillary Bohr and Stanley Kabeni not do well in this race, they were looked at as like kind of locks for that top 3 spot along with Jager. Mm-hmm. But when they have these off races, you're like, okay, they're not in their same fitness or status that we thought they would be. And these newcomers are coming in, but they're not coming in running 18, sub 8:10. They're running 8 high teens in Updike and Furlick. It just becomes wide open. Jager is an unknown. He has no time to his name. You have to imagine he could, if he's healthy, he will be a top 3 guy. But yeah, I think this is going to become especially if Hillary Bohr and Stanley Kabeni follow up this performance with another subpar type performance for their standards, then yeah, the steeple is going to be a shuffle up and deal, and it could be anyone's game.
Mm-hmm. MJ in the chat says, I think he's referring to Allison Felix here, says the announcer said she's focusing on the 200 for the Olympics. That would
Really?
be an interesting decision because that would just take you out of the 400-meter pool entirely. That'd be
Hmm.
interesting. I guess. I mean, the 200. I'm assuming Richardson's going to run the 200. There's no easy
I,
teams to make.
yeah, Richardson and Steiner, my two locks.
Jenna
So
Prandini. Well, Jenna Prandini looked good. I mean, Freddie Brown got a medal.
Gabby Thomas
Angie
is
Nell.
pretty good.
Yeah, Gabby Thomas. There's a. It's deep no matter where you look. I would be interested in that decision just from a relay perspective as well. We got a picture here before we move on of Isaac
Yeah.
Updike pumped up
What do you think of that kit?
Empire. I like it.
So that's
I like it. There
it's
was
the new track club they got in New York. Kind of what was New Jersey New York Track Club kind of spawned off into the Empire Track Club. What do you think?
I like the kit. I like the font. There were some kits I wasn't crazy about. I'll wait till we do our full kit rankings on the ones I was not that crazy about. But I like it. It's good to see a new jersey out there too.
You
No
like
pun
the
intended.
tape over the logo? He's unsponsored, so he's not giving anyone credit
Tape?
for his
We need-
817.
We need less tape. MJ says no love for the women's 100. Where's Bowie? Well, Bowie ran it that meet in Florida and was well back. So we got to wait and see if she's gonna factor in this year. Are we experiencing a changing of the guard? Yeah, I think Richardson is solid, but I think you have the old guard there with Fraser Price and then obviously Elaine Thompson there. I think right now it's a 3-woman race for the 100. That looks to be the medal contenders right now, or the gold medal contenders. Other people can factor in, but right now I feel good about one of those 3. Okay, we talked a little bit about Fred Curley before.
Dude,
He goes
991?
991, so he joins the sub 44, sub 10 club. He needs to get that sub 20 in there, which I'm sure he can do. Ran it down in Florida, so a big race for him. Couture Orgy broke the American record in the triple jump. Shamir Little ran a 204-800, which is good. That's really fast.
That's really fast. Travis, put up the tweet that I put in the notes. So we're gonna do a little sleuthing. I'm not sure, but she posted about how she ran a 204. Apparently, she ran another 800 like a few years ago, but didn't want people to know about it. But she tweeted out. I'll just, unless we can't get it up, I'll just read it here. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. So she said, Coach and I are on a mission, and every move made thus far has a purpose. I'm so pleased with the direction that things are going. 204 in an off event with competitive effort, and I'm actually crazy enough to want to do it again and go faster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if you look at this tweet, if you scroll down, on
a lot of
underneath
investigating.
the tweet, maybe they don't show it, but it says this tweet was deleted by the tweet author. Right there. See this tweet was deleted by a tweet author? So what that tweet said was she was comparing the 400 hurdles to the 800, and she said that the 400 hurdles was more difficult than the 8. And she says, if you want to debate me, she's like said, talk to your mom or something, like did some trash talk. But once again, we always have this, the community wants to say, what's the hardest event? You have the 400 hurdles with, it's hard with the hurdles. 800, you have to go long distance, all that stuff. But Shamir Little now adding to the fire of like, hey, 400 hurdles is harder than the 800. What do you agree with that? Do you think the 400 hurdles is harder than the 800? I still think the 800 is harder than the 400 hurdles, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. So,
well, the 400 hurdles just adds that technical element in it and the timing element, and it just seems like a lot to think about while you're doing it, and obviously seems physically grueling. So it's a different. I think you're comparing like apples to oranges when you talk about those 2 events. I'm just impressed. 204.
Comparing running to running. Yeah.
Wait, no, it's hurdling. Like it's hurdling. Like there's a whole different component to it. Like Donovan Brazier and Raven Rogers don't need to measure out their steps before they run the 800. It's just completely different. So props to her for the 204. That's good.
Dalil Muhammad would talk about doing 800s in practice
Yeah.
a few years
Yeah.
ago, and she ran like 206s. And Dalil Muhammad thinks she could break 2 minutes in the 800. Now I see Shamir Little running 204, thinking she can go faster. Could we see these 400-meter hurdlers start like overtaking and like kind of encroaching on the 800? And they're already taking over the flat 400. Now they're gonna want to start taking over the flat 800. It's gonna be Shamir, Dalila, and Ashley Spencer all over the place.
Just decathletes before we know it.
Yeah.
All over the place. Speaking of the 400, Noah Williams over the weekend of LSU ran 44.30, NCAA lead in the quarter, beat Bryce Dedman of Texas A&M, who ran 44.58, which is the second best time of the year. This is noteworthy, of course, because, well, you can see how fast he is there running the 400. But this is noteworthy, of course, because before the outdoor season got going, Noah Williams, who's the reigning indoor champion, it was not high enough, I thought, on Gordon's rankings. So I brought it up, and Gordon said, well, you have to do something outdoors first, which, of course, caught the attention of Williams himself when Gordon mentioned that. So he responded, well, do you want to talk about this, Gordon? This is you getting dunked on. So do you want to explain your own dunking here?
So I don't feel like I'm being dunked on, to be honest.
That's what they all say.
I don't feel like I'm being dunked on. First of all, these aren't NCAA rankings, right? I think I had him ranked high in the NCAA, clearly, because he was coming off of winning the NCAA title. This was
U.S. rankings.
U.S. rankings, all right? And I think I had him, what was he ranked? 11th, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I think I had him ranked 11th before this. In the new rankings, he's going to be ranked 6th. So he's moving up, but he's not. So my current rankings now are Michael Norman 1, Fred Curley 2, Kamari Montgomery 3, Nathan Strother 4, Trevor Stewart 5, Noah Williams 6. And I get it. Strother and Stewart aren't running as fast, but like Strother was 3rd at USA's in 2019. Stewart made the final. They both all run faster than 44.3 in 2019. I get it's 2019, but he's moving up. And I think Noah Williams, once we get through SECs, he'll probably move up from 6th to maybe even 4th. Maybe ultimately, before the trials start, he'll be ranked 3rd. But like, just because you're not ranked high in March doesn't mean you're going to be stuck there and that I'm going to ignore anything you do. People move up their rankings and people move down. So Noah Williams is coming from not running at USA's in 2019, not running at all in 2020. The only thing he had was a fast indoor time, which is great, which is why he was ranked in the first place. And now he's run fast, and it's awesome, and he's going to continue to run faster. And dare I say it, he could be going into the trial to rank 3rd in my rankings behind Curley and Norman. But right now, you gotta keep going and earn it. I mean, why would I diminish Kamari Montgomery? Why would I diminish Nathan Strother, who got 3rd in 2019? You can't do that.
But here's how you said it, though. Here's what you actually said. I said you forgot Noah Williams because I have the transcript right here. Shout out to Travis. He went sub 45 indoors. And then your response, indoors, man, come on. Do something outdoor and get back to me. So then he did that. Credit to him. He did something outdoors. I just think it was funny. You thought that a 400 meters PB would be better indoors than outdoors. Like you didn't think that he'd be able to run faster than 44.7 outdoors. So then he responds. They get the clip. LSU, good job by their social media person digging up the clip and find it. Do we got that one up there? No, Gordon. I want to show this to the listeners now. You had your chance to respond to the dunking. I don't know if we can find the clip. I just thought it was funny. So there we have it. And if it served as a motivation. Oh, can we play the audio? Is that possible? I don't know if we can play the audio. We're experimenting with all the different. Can't play the audio
next week.
There we go.
Hey, I'm okay.
Yes.
I got dunked on also by Portland State this past weekend for my comment on their athlete Abdi Keenan, because I thought the word Keenan looked like the word Kenyan, and I made a joke about it. And then he goes out and runs 14.14, and his teammates all show up and brag about it. If you just go to, I don't think they tweeted from their account. They just liked it from their account anyway.
So you're saying go to, diminishing somebody is the best sign for
Travis.
Don't ever go to @Gordon Mack on Twitter unless you're the Sixers GM. Then you should go to it. Pull that up right there. Oh, man. Just
Yeah.
Gordon taking a beating on social media. It's just tough.
Hey,
It's a blessing. It's a blessing when you downplay someone, then you know it's going to be good. I just like that they went through the trouble of they waited till Williams ran faster than he did indoors, found the clip, cut it, put it up, tagged you. I thought it was great work all around. So this is a good job by the LSU squad.
Here's
out there.
the thing, though. Did they post it after he ran his 44.3, or did they do it before?
I think they did it after, didn't they?
Oh,
didn't they? Wasn't that the whole point?
So it's like,
yeah.
Well, they were waiting. Well, why did they wait?
Well,
what about beforehand?
He noticed it. He noticed it. He noticed it before. He posted the stuff before, and then they just highlighted the clip after. So it was a team effort there. One more story. I know we're running.
LSU looking good. I mean, speaking of one more time. Speaking of LSU, Aaliyah Hobbs ran really fast. LSU grad. She ran like low 990s, not 990s, low 1090s. She's going to definitely be in the conversation to challenge Sha'Carri. I mean, Sha'Carri's definitely going to be the heavy favorite, but we could see an LSU 1-2 at the Olympic trials. LSU alumni 1-2 in Aaliyah Hobbs and Sha'Carri Richardson. Should be cool. We can see a lot of LSU, right? LSU, obviously Noah Williams now. He's in contention to be top 3. A lot of LSU all over the track.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll leave it there. I wanted to jump into this Tinman stuff, but there's more developing, so I don't want to say stuff and then there's another response to the response to the response. So we'll say that for Wednesday's show, right? We need a Wednesday show.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and there's plenty of stuff going on there. So the email address, flotrackpodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel and to the FloTrack YouTube channel as well. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for downloading. We'll be back on Wednesday.